Hey everybody, we're in for quite a treat today. We've got a special guest and we're out on the road. So this is going to be a really special day. What's this all about? We're going to talk to a real life Idaho native. Stick around. Hey everybody, Dave Edwards, Treasure Valley Dave here. You know your great real estate agent by your side when it comes time to buy a home, sell a home, or even relocate to the Treasure Valley. And if you're thinking about relocating to the Treasure Valley, you might want to know, do all those native Idahoans, do they hate Californians and Washingtonians? Well, today we've got Lisa here. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yes, you too.
She's a real live native Idahoan, and we're going to ask her those deep questions. How you doing?
I'm really good. I'm really glad to be here with you.
Thanks. So people always hear that, Idahoans don't like Californians. Is that really a true thing?
Here's the deal, Dave. I got to be straight up with you. I can't speak for every native Idahoan. I can only speak for myself.
Is that right? Okay, well, we'll cut you some slack.
Okay, and maybe I'm not the loud minority that's out there, because I do believe that there are some people that maybe don't show up and represent what I feel to be like the true nature and the culture of Idaho and Idaho natives, because people are moving here for a lot of the same reasons that my family has stayed here for so long. And I'm one of those people that I welcome it because, I love this place. I can't imagine, I'm a mom of 3. Can't imagine raising my kids anywhere else.
Right.
It's a really great place to be. So I never get mad when new people move here, because they're usually coming for a very similar reason as to why I'm staying here.
That is pretty awesome. So it is probably just a minority that goes around there and says stuff or cuts people off on the freeway. And your experience is pretty much what I've felt with other people that have been here at least a long time, is that they're happy to see our brothers and sisters escape to a place that is a great place to, raise your family and be safe and start a business and stuff like that.
For my professional career, I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit around the country. And Idaho is all I've ever known. And it's one of those things that when the plane lands back in Boise, there's just this big sigh of relief, like, nice. There's no place like Idaho, and there's no place like the Treasure Valley. So I absolutely love it here.
Well, so, you're still pretty young, but can you tell me about what it was like to grow up here and how you've seen growth change that, if it has?
For sure. So I grew up in Boise, graduated from Centennial High School. Shout out to any Centennial Patriots out there. And I happened to marry a native Idahoan as well. So growing up here in Boise, it still very much felt like small town. And I remember stories from my dad, because he graduated from Boise High School. My mom graduated from Bora. They met at Boise State. My grandparents met at Boise State. So like multi-generational native Idahoans. And it's growing up here, it's felt very small town. And that was reiterated by the stories I would hear from both my parents and grandparents, that it just is small town. And then if you talk to my husband, who was raised in Meridian, that was even smaller town, right. Which now those two, Boise, Meridian, they just seem to meld together, but there was a clear separation. And it was a lot of, I'm a product of the 80s. It was a lot of, you wait for dad to whistle, and that's when you knew it was time to run back home because it was dinner time. I always felt safe no matter where I was. I knew all of the people in my neighborhood that I went to high school with, that I went to elementary school with. And so it felt very tight-knit, very close. And most of my childhood, I don't remember a lot of outsiders moving in. I think the first time it really became prevalent to me is when we started getting some outside industry like Micron and Hewlett-Packard, especially where I was at, West Boise. That's where Hewlett-Packard used to be housed, their big corporate office. That was really the first time that I saw a lot of people come in from out of town, like, oh, you're not from here. Interesting. But now, when I was growing up, sports were different then. So you just filled your time playing sports and doing all of the things. And now as a mom with 3 young athletes, they're not so young anymore, the opportunities that they have as athletes what I had exposure to pales in comparison to what they have exposure to now. The level of competition is so much higher. The opportunity and exposure to get trained, by really high quality coaches and really high quality programs has exploded. And to me as a mom, because athletics, I think, are a great opportunity for my kids to develop, that's been an incredible advantage I see from the growth.
Right.
So that's just a little bit of a comparison between how my experience was versus what I see with my kids.
So when we moved up here, my daughter was going into her sophomore year at Columbia High over in Nampa, and the different courses and things that she could learn there was so much more advanced than what I had as a kid, and I was raised in a very small town too.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe some of this growth is really good opportunities for kids to have, chances to learn and do things that we never did back in the old days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I was raised in the Meridian School District. Now it's called West Ada because it is a conglomeration of like the West Ada County. But growing up, it was always Meridian School District. And there was no special classes. I mean, maybe there was like a mechanics class or maybe a welding class, but it was very generic high school stuff. And, my oldest is 21. She's in college right now. And my middle is going into her sophomore year. My oldest graduated with basically the equivalent of an associate's degree, and to think about the level of advancement that gave her to have opportunity and choice with where she wanted to go to college because of the way that our school system is designed. And my second, she's already thinking like, hey, Mom, I think I want to go through the CNA program and graduate high school as a CNA. So she's potentially ready for the workforce.
Right.
And then who knows where that will go. So the academics, in addition to the athletics, I love that you brought that up, is vastly different. Opportunity is incredible. The other thing that I think is super cool, my husband works for the local fire department here, and there's even programs that you can leave high school with everything that you need in order to potentially explore that career as well. There's so much that's been invested into our academic system here that it's really cool to see what kids are able to do these days.
Judging by some of our past clients that have moved up here, it's really interesting that we have enough diverse economy now with the growth that their kids don't have to graduate college and move away.
Yeah.
They can find opportunities right here and still and be close to mom and dad and then the grandbabies and the whole cycle of life.
Yeah, and I think what's really amazing about technological advancements is that there are a lot of big corporations that are remote agnostic. That's a term that I heard recently, meaning it doesn't matter where you live as long as you can get access into, be available during in this certain time zone, or especially post-COVID with the influx of remote work, that there really isn't a lot of situations that families have to separate because, we have to go get a career here in this other state because there's nothing here. I just think about Micron as a massive employer and the influx. They're getting billions of dollars poured into that organization right here in Idaho in the Treasure Valley. And it basically is the equivalent of a small city and all of the different jobs that come along with it. There's so much opportunity here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And even if you're not in the high tech, they need all sorts of support. They need a place to go have lunch and someone to fix their cars and build their houses. And,
Yep. Yeah.
Lisa, one of the things that some of my people, they talk to me and, they haven't been up here yet. And it's like, I don't have any friends up there. It's like, I'm just going to be at home and lonely and there's nothing there for me to do. Is there anything for people to do around here?
One of the absolute favorite things about the Treasure Valley specifically, and I'm sure you've experienced this, is that one, it is absolutely a community, meaning you move into a specific area of town or a specific neighborhood, and the people that are around you that are already existing in their homes, more often than not, are there to welcome you. They want to meet you. They want to look you in the face and shake your hand and say, welcome to our community, because in general, there is such a strong sense of community. With that, there are also subsets of communities. It's a very active place because we get to experience all 4 seasons. So if you love doing winter sports, like we just started snowboarding this year, if you're active in the summer, or you like mountain biking, you can find subsets of communities anywhere you go where you can build that sense of belonging. And people are so, so kind. That is one of the things that has stood out to me more than anything else, even with the growth that we've experienced here in the Treasure Valley specifically, is that we haven't lost that kindness. Right. What I mean by that is, like, if I'm walking into a business and my arms are full, maybe I'm carrying a couple different bags, someone is there to open the door for me. Or you're walking down the aisles of the grocery store, people are going to look you in the eye and they're going to smile at you. I was talking to a friend of mine who moved here from Philadelphia. So East Coast has a totally different feel than Idaho. And she was at the grocery store, and just in the small talk of like getting checked out, the clerk was like, "So how's your day going?" And she literally was like, "What? Why are you asking me that?" She was so shocked because that was not the culture that she was familiar with coming from Philadelphia and the East Coast. And it took her a little bit to warm up to that, like, oh, people really are friendly here. Mm-hmm. And it's normal to engage in a conversation with a total stranger. Yeah. Which surprised me. I'm like, oh, people don't do that everywhere.
Right. And I see it so often in line at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. You just start talking with somebody like you've known them all your life.
Yeah. The other thing that I always joke is funny, and this is true for most Idaho natives, but the longer you live here, the more true it becomes for you as well. It's like, for me, everybody's heard that like 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Well, here in the Treasure Valley, if you've lived here at least 20 years, maybe 1 degree of separation. And for me, it's like half a degree of separation. And so that's what's really cool, is as you get embedded in the community, you start to know people like, oh yeah, well, do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, I know them. They're my neighbor. Or, oh, I met them on the trail, or whatever it is. So yeah.
So awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay, the big 800-pound gorilla in the room, traffic. It has gotten worse.
It for sure has gotten worse. There used to be a time, I remember when I was learning to drive, there used to be a time that you could get anywhere in the valley inside 15, 20 minutes max. And that's not the case anymore. And that just is part of the nature of the beast with traffic. And all it does is just means that you have to plan ahead a little bit. And really, when you think about infrastructure, and granted, I am not a city planner, so I don't know anything about that. I don't work for the transportation department. But planning ahead for growth when you don't have the financial backing for that yet, I see as the biggest challenge. And so I think our city organizations, our county organizations are doing the best they can with what they have to plan for the growth that is coming, utilizing the funds that they have access to now. So as we're getting this insurge, we're trying to catch up, and we're going to be behind until that growth stalls a little bit, which I don't know if it ever will.
Well, and the growth came on so quickly, like at the beginning of COVID. It's just, how did we know that we were going to get so many people? But, I think we're rolling with it. I mean, it might take an extra, literally, 5 minutes to get from Nampa to Boise in the morning, unless there's a wreck, which could happen.
Totally, yes.
So I do hear, from the old timers, because it's not like that really fast trip anymore, that they might be 5 minutes later, and they don't like that.
Yeah. But change is hard, for a lot of people. And all it just means is, like, you can either deny the fact that it's going to take you longer, and then you're going to be angry and upset that you're late, or you can just accept the fact that, hey, it's going to take me 5-10 minutes longer, and plan accordingly, and then you get there on time.
Right. But it does seem like there is a lot of benefits to having the people that are moving up here are really, nice and conservative, and they appreciate our conservative lifestyle up here. So it's not like they're out there graffitiing and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely not. And, that's one of the things that I also love about the Treasure Valley. I used to work for a large corporate organization that would bring outside talent in. And I don't know if you know this, but Boise specifically is one of 9 refugee cities in the country, meaning when you have, whether it's turmoil in another country, for example, maybe Chad or the Sudan, when refugees come, they're usually placed in one of 9 refugee cities, and there's an entire refugee community that is there to welcome them and help enculturate them into that community. And I say that because while there is this sense of like, we have strong family values here, there still is also a lot of personal and cultural diversity here, but for a lot of the same reasons that people want to have a safe place to live, to raise a family, to where they can go out in their neighborhood and feel really comfortable with the people that are around them. And so when you explore out different areas of town, you get kind of a different feel of like, oh, this is kind of the look and feel here. This is the kind of look and feel here. But in general, people carry that universal thread of like, we love it here. We want it to feel like community. We want to feel welcome here. And we also want to feel safe. So it's pretty cool. Right. Yeah.
Well, and I've been in a lot of big cities, capital cities, but to walk around downtown Boise, you just get that feeling that it is safe and it's so clean and it's not like totally congested. It's just a really nice place to go.
It totally is. And I'm a little biased because I am married to a first responder. And so I see from that perspective of the relationship that our first responders have with the community. Right. And it's so supportive. This is the place that, when you see a police officer or a firefighter or an EMS provider out in the community, there's a sense of like gratitude, and you hear that a lot of like, hey, thanks for keeping our community safe. Right. Thanks for protecting us, which I obviously, being as biased as I am, I really appreciate that. So, and
it does give you a good sense of how the community is, and they appreciate, and so that's why and I've only been up here 12 years now, 13, 12, something like that. And I mean, I feel bad because it took me, 50 years to figure out that this is where I needed to be. And you're so blessed because you were like born here.
You know what's funny? I didn't want to stay here though. I remember graduating high school, and I could not wait to get out of Idaho.
Where did you want to go?
I wanted to, at the time, I had big ambitions of like, I'm going to go be a TV broadcaster. I'm going to be a reporter. And so I thought I need to go to like Portland or Seattle to get, to earn my stripes. And I happened to fall in love with an Idaho Native. And I remember distinctly having a conversation with him. And he's like, hey, if that's like, I hunt, I fish, I love the outdoors, I love to hike. If that's the life that you want to have, like, I don't think I'm your guy. And what's really interesting is even though I was raised by Idaho Natives as well, we weren't super outdoorsy as a family. And so my experience in Idaho was literally just the Treasure Valley. And it wasn't until I started exploring our state with him, like you can drive an hour in any direction and be in remote wilderness and have access to some of the most beautiful country that you've ever seen in your life. And I didn't know that. I didn't have a childhood of exploring that. So when I finally was introduced to it, I was like, oh, this is the Idaho that I've been missing out on. Why would I ever leave?
Right.
Yeah.
And so were you able to follow up on those dreams of doing something more professional, but still be here in Boise?
Yeah, so my professional journey has been a little bit different. Turns out I didn't love communications and broadcast. So I had a little bit of a stint in that. But the one thing that I knew I really wanted was to be a mom. So when we started our family, I was pursuing an education degree. So I was a teacher for a handful of years. And decided that was not the career that I wanted to continue in. And I was absolutely able to find professional and corporate success in the Treasure Valley, just because of the industry that was here, and the plethora of industries that are here. So even though it does still feel like a little bit of small town, I have never felt limited in my professional ambition due to a lack of access or a lack of opportunity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that your kids are a little bit older, probably about that age to, thinking about getting out of the nest, are they thinking that they need to leave the Treasure Valley, or are they happy with their futures here?
It's funny that you asked that because our oldest, she went to Montana on a volleyball and an academic scholarship. And so she went to Helena, Montana, which Helena is a very small town. And I would probably position it similar to Caldwell, Idaho. So just, 20 minutes outside of Boise is Caldwell. And Helena, Montana very much feels that way. And when we went up to visit that campus, she was like, man, doesn't this feel like home? even though it was still, a 7.5, 8 hour drive away. And of course, my little mama heart was like, oh, but you're going to be so far away. But it was so familiar. So every time that we went there, it was like, yeah, this feels like home. And she spent 2 years there and then decided, man, I miss my family. I miss seeing my younger brother and sister on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I feel like life is happening without them. So she decided to move back and is now pursuing a nursing degree. She's engaged. Her fiance is local here. They just bought their first house here, which, for me as a mom, of course I want my kids to stay here, and that's my hope. The thing that I had worried about up until now was affordability for them. But being able to see industry is growing in a way that is trying to support our community as well, so that people can also afford to live here. That you've got early 20s able to buy their first house while they're trying to build their professional careers. Right. So yeah,
that is awesome.
So hopefully the other two aren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
My son jokingly says, he's like, Mom, I'm going to buy the next door neighbor's house just so I can be close to you guys and I can come over every night and you can cook me dinner.
Well, there's a plus side to that.
Maybe
Right.
We'll see. Maybe when he's 24, 25 and, with his, partner, girlfriend or wife at the time,
Right.
she might not want that. We don't need to live next to your parents.
That's true. A few blocks away is...
A few blocks away would be fine. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So let me ask you this, because people are going to be moving up here and hopefully they're going to stay here a long time. So what do you see for the future, like on the individual level as people get older? And then what do you see for the future of the valley if people continue to move here and it continues to grow?
Yeah, well, I don't have a crystal ball, so as much as I would love to make projections.
Mine's in the shop right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to cue that up at a later date. I will speak what I'm observing with my parents, my in-laws, as they're boomers and they're getting pretty settled in their mid to late 70s. What I love seeing them do is continue to stay active. And that's the great thing about this community is there's so much opportunity for them to stay active. I'm watching some of the development that's happening around the valley specifically for that older population and the way that those, whether it's condos or townhomes, the way that they're structured next to activity. A lot of them are next to a park. I think about over at the Village, so people can stay active and also know that, when you're at that age, you've earned the right to go enjoy your life however you want, and making sure that home doesn't become a place that feels like a burden, but like, how do we make home easy so that you can go continue to live the retirement life that you want to have. And I hear from my mom all the time, like, oh, there's a Jimmy Buffett tribute band that came. And so, they're going to concerts or going to all the different fun activities that are around. My mother-in-law does the same thing. She's got a group of ladies that she walks with. And so there's once you find the people, which I don't think it's hard, once you find the people that are in your same age demographic, that community gets built really quickly. And it helps keep you active to enjoy this life that you've earned.
And, I see there's a lot of opportunities for volunteerism around here too.
For sure. And I would say, especially if you're moving here to be around kids and grandkids, as a former teacher, one of my favorite things is when my mom would come and volunteer in my classroom, because she felt like a grandma to the kids in that class. Right. And if you're moving here for your family to be around, your kids and grandkids, there's no lack of opportunity to volunteer for youth, to volunteer for vets. We have a lot of people. It's very much like a pet community. So we've got the Humane Society, lots of places that whatever tugs on your heartstrings that you want to give back to, there's for sure an opportunity to be of use and to help and give back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So moving forward, like 20 years, do you see, because I know that you're always looking at what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Do you see any negatives? I mean, obviously we're going to have a little bit more traffic, some more growth, but do you see are we going to become like downtown Detroit or anything like that?
Oh gosh, I don't think just the way that, not to sound polarizing, but I just don't see that happening just with the way that politics in Idaho are typically handled. They definitely tend to lean more towards a conservative approach to things. But I can't, again, I don't have the future. One of the things that we are actively planning for is having grown up having access to a lot of nature. We're being intentional with, okay, how are we looking at opportunities to invest and having a little place for ourselves? So we've got a cabin up in the mountains of Idaho. We're making sure that we're creating experiences for our kids to tap into the state that we have access to, learning how to snowboard, rafting, those kinds of things, to build those experiences, because that's what Idaho is known for. So those are the things that we're actively planning for in the future. That regardless of what happens in the Treasure Valley, because growth will continue to happen, how do we still enjoy the other great parts of
So it sounds
Idaho?
like we appreciate our state, and we're teaching the next generation to appreciate their state.
Yeah,
Our state's going to be just fine.
totally. I'm optimistic, that's for sure.
Lisa, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your stories with our people. And this might bring you guys a little bit of insight to what it could be like for you to live up here. And so if you guys want to know what it's like to drive in rush hour traffic in Boise and Meridian, make sure you watch this video here next, and we will see you guys on the next video.